I upload daily NBA content on this channel, so if that is something that interests you, then subscribe. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. Also real quick, episode 5 of my NBA series is out over on my second channel. That second channel is very close to 10K, so I'd appreciate it if you went over there and subscribed. Even if you do not enjoy 2K content, I do this very differently to where it's more basketball analysis than actual video game stuff, so go check that one out if that interests you. But with that out of the way, today I wanted to talk about Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. So the Bucks definitely had an eventful and a weird offseason. First, obviously, they traded for Jrue Holiday, giving up way too many draft picks in the process, but they did land another star-level player to pair with Giannis and another shot creator to pair with Giannis. They also seem to have landed Bogdan Bogdanovic in exchange for Donte DiVincenzo and some contracts, but then unfortunately Bogdan said, fuck that, I want to make more money over on the Atlanta Hawks, so he completely botched the trade because he didn't have to agree to it as a free agent, and he went to the Hawks, and the Kings got nothing, and the Bucks did not get him. So instead, the Bucks ended up using some of their money in free agency to sign some other role players, guys like DJ Augustin, who should be a very good backup point guard, Bobby Portis, who is a big man that can score the ball and shoot the ball from outside, which is very good for them to have, Bryn Forbes, who is a very good three-point shooter. I think they made another signing that I can't think of off the top of my head, but yeah. So their starting lineup should now look like Jrue Holiday, Donte DiVincenzo, Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez, with DJ Augustin, Bobby Portis, and Bryn Forbes off of the bench. And that, I would definitely say, is a better team than last year's Milwaukee Bucks. And it's for this reason that the title of this video is Giannis no longer has any excuses. And I'm going to explain why I feel that way, but first I want to talk about these additions a little bit more in depth and what they actually mean for the Bucks.
Save! Absolutely incredibly with the acrobatic alley-oop!
Of course, I had my initial reaction takes on Jrue Holiday on the Bucks. Now that they've added DJ Augustin, I could actually see a world where they're running lineups with him and Jrue Holiday at the 2-guard spot, because Jrue really likes playing shooting guard. I don't think that would be the starting lineup because that bench needs DJ Augustin, but it's definitely something that they could be going to. I could also see them running lineups with Giannis at the 5 spot now that they have added Bobby Portis, because Bobby Portis is a stretch 4. Bobby Portis was not particularly good for the Knicks last year, but I can tell you as a Bulls fan that Bobby Portis is definitely a guy who can be a scoring threat off of the bench. I don't know what happened with the Knicks last year. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I definitely haven't watched many Knicks games because it was the fucking Knicks. But definitely Bobby Portis didn't play well for the Knicks last year. But for the Bulls, before he was traded to the Wizards, because I also don't really know what he was doing on the Wizards, the guy was shooting well from 3, and he was able to create in the mid-range, create in the post, was a good pick and roll partner. Not a defensive player, but somebody who can space the floor and play good offense. Bryn Forbes, very good three-point shooter, but another guy who's really not a defensive player. He shot around 38% on like 5 attempts from 3 last year for the Spurs, if I'm remembering those stats correctly. I could be wrong. He is definitely a guy who can shoot the 3 at an elite level. He is unfortunately not a defensive player, and because of that, you probably can't play him more than 20 minutes per game, but he's definitely a good backup to have and a good shooter to have. And then DJ Augustin is one of the best backup point guards in the league, and after losing George Hill, who was one of the best backup point guards in the league, it's nice to have a replacement for him in DJ Augustin. DJ is a guy who is not really great at anything, but he's pretty good at everything. Maybe not so much defense, but he's definitely somebody who can put the ball on the floor, who can shoot, who can play make, and all of that stuff. So DJ Augustin is also a nice addition, and I think that bench offense overall and that bench depth is improved from last year, though not by a huge difference, because George Hill was just really good off of the bench for the Bucks last year. But with that out of the way, why does this mean Giannis has no more excuses? And really, what do I mean by that? Well, I don't mean that the Bucks have to win a championship this year or else Giannis drops in player rankings or something like that. All I'm going to say is that the Bucks and Giannis have no more excuses to lose in the fashion that they have in the last 2 playoffs. Giannis does not have an excuse to fail the way that he did versus the Heat and versus the Raptors. The excuses that we made for Giannis when both of those playoff series went down, and me in particular, because I've been a big defender of Giannis, was that the wall defense that both the Heat and the Raptors built was blocking him out of the paint. And then when he had to pass it to a guard to create on the perimeter, they weren't really achieving this. The only guy that was decent at it was Chris Middleton, and he's not even elite at it. Drew Holiday, I would say, is a better shot creator because he's a much better ball handler, a better finisher, and roughly around the same mid-range wise. And even though he's a worse three-point shooter, Drew Holiday is someone that I think can create offense one-on-one better than Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton scores more in a system than Drew Holiday does. And because of this, I think because you have both of those options, it means that the Bucks' issue with shot creation, while it's not entirely solved, I think getting Bogdan would have made it entirely solved, it's still much improved. And for that reason, there really is not a whole lot of excuses for Giannis anymore. The one big excuse that he could have if he fucks up again is their head coach, Mike Budenholzer. If he decides that he's going to play Giannis 30 minutes a game in the playoffs again, then that's going to be an issue. But assuming that he has his head completely out of his ass, which he might not, if he's playing Giannis 36 minutes a game in the playoffs, then I guess there's an excuse, and they need to fire Mike Budenholzer. Honestly, I wouldn't even necessarily not entertain firing him right now, but apparently they want to stick with their guns, so I guess that's fine. Also, Giannis needs to be more vocal about telling him, like, hey, I'm guarding Jimmy Butler, and I am playing 44 minutes in this basketball game. But anyways, I don't think Giannis has excuses anymore. I've been someone who has been very defensive of Giannis in the past. I have found every excuse under the sun. Mike Budenholzer is not a good coach in the playoffs. Shot creation around Giannis is really nothing special. Three-point shooting can sometimes be suspect for the Bucks, and Giannis should be playing center. That's probably the four main things that I have referred to as the issue with the Bucks roster and the reason why the Bucks are not as great as they appear on paper and why they have disappointed in the playoffs. However, now that they have added Drew Holiday to the roster and they've gotten these guys off the bench that can shoot and create, I really don't know how much of an excuse that is anymore. If the Bucks wanted to do like an ultimate spacing lineup, they could do Drew Holiday, Bryn Forbes, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, and then Giannis at the center. That is two great shooters, two good ones, and then Giannis at the 5. I think lineups like that could really exploit Giannis's ability to get into the paint because there's that much shooting out there. Even if you do your traditional lineup, this is definitely a much better shot creating lineup. Drew Holiday is also a much better three-point shooter than Eric Bledsoe. Drew Holiday is still not a great three-point shooter by any means. He's just a pretty all right one, but that's much better than what Eric Bledsoe has been. And then this bench offense, I think, has potential. So this Bucks roster, I think, is better all around. I think it has addressed a lot of the flaws with this roster from the previous years. So at this point, if Giannis goes in the playoffs and he averages 20 points per game on 45% shooting and the team ends up losing because he was not able to produce more, then that is on Giannis. There is no other finger to point unless Mike Budenholzer pulls some stupid bullshit off, or if there's an injury or something. But assuming no random factor like that happens, assuming Mike Budenholzer's head is pulled out of his ass, then there will be no reason outside of Giannis just not being the player that we think he is. And as I've said, I've been defensive of Giannis. I think he is the player that we've said that he is. I think he's the player that I think he is. Obviously, because I think that. That's how thinking things works. I would like to be confident in that. I'd like to be sure of that. And I have not been given reason to be sure of that yet. And this is the year for Giannis to prove that. He's probably not going to win an MVP this year. He's probably not going to three-peat just because that very rarely happens. This should be one of the best seasons of his career regardless. And I would say this probably should be better if we're including playoffs in this. This definitely should be the best season of his career. It would be nice if what should be what happens is what happens. But I suppose we can only wait and see. But what I do know for sure is unless there's some random factor, the Bucks have no excuse to lose in the playoffs in the fashion that they have. Now, they don't have to win a championship. The Lakers are a better team, so it makes sense for the Lakers to beat them. I felt the way about the Clippers as well, and then we saw how that worked out. But I definitely did not expect the Bucks to win a championship last year, but I did expect them to make a finals appearance. This year, I pretty much expect them to make a finals appearance unless some team in the Eastern Conference, like let's say the Brooklyn Nets, ends up just being crazy good. The Miami Heat Heat end up stepping on the gas and they're just a ridiculously good team, and it wasn't just a Cinderella story and they're just actually a crazy good team. Regardless, the Bucks cannot lose in the fashion that they have again, and Giannis will not get by this time around. Go check out that My NBA series. I really enjoy doing those, so if you could go support those, I'd appreciate it. The channel is less than 300 subs away from 10K, so go subscribe over there. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and also happy Thanksgiving. I'm not a Thanksgiving person, but I am very thankful for those of you who watch these videos and make what I do possible. I'm thankful for Rudy. You're a sexy ass man. Yeah, that's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.